Hello everyone, and as you know, this week on the 10th of October it's World Mental Health Day, and we thought, the Life Lounge team, that it would be a good opportunity for you to meet us and for us to talk about mental health. Let's talk about it. The theme of this year is mental health for all, and it is encouraging us all to talk about what we do to keep ourselves mentally well and to manage our well-being. So now's the time to introduce some of the team that are here today, and we're going to have a chat about what we do to look after ourselves. So I'm Tony Dewsbury, I'm a mental health advisor here, and I will pass you over to Christina.
Oh, I'm Christine Morris. I'm one of, well, the other half of Tony. I'm one of the mental health advisors at the university. Arnold.
And I'm Arnold Weldon. I'm the counsellor here at the university, and I'm as old as dirt. Andrew.
I'm Andy. I'm the CBT therapist here.
Lois.
I'm Lois. I'm currently the wellbeing advisor, looking after the diaries of the Life Lounge at the moment.
So Lois is the centre of our universe and will arrange every contact with you guys when you have appointments. So we love Lois. She does a lot for us. So we're not going to go like super deep and cry. That's not the plan of today. The plan of today is to share things that have happened for us recently, because COVID particularly has been really tough for a lot of us, because as you can see, we're all in different places, and as a team of people that were together constantly, we haven't even properly seen each other for a long time, have we? So who wants to talk about how COVID has affected them? Maybe that might be a good place to start.
I think I'm really good at this. Why don't you start?
I don't mind starting. It's obviously, there are some words now, aren't there, that we're hearing all the time. I'm absolutely sick to death of hearing unprecedented. But unfortunately, it fits really well, doesn't it? Because it is sort of unprecedented. As I'm my longest serving client. I've done so much work on me. And with this pandemic and all the different changes, there's a common theme, and I'm sure the rest of you will be able to relate to this. It's all about control. When we feel, think, or believe, because they are really important aspects, aren't they? What we think, what we believe, and how we feel, they're all connected. And if we think, feel, or believe that we have control, then things normally go pretty well, because we've got structure and all this lot. This pandemic has done a lot to challenge the control we have. Now, obviously, some through legislations, and some through recommendations and everything, and everybody's life's been affected by it, including ours. In particular me, I know that I have developed what is commonly now known as coronaphobia, due to quite a number of different issues, like health issues, my age, as people keep telling me I am the oldest one, and like working away from work, which I found really exciting. Actually, I really loved doing this remote. It's like enhanced our strings to our bows. And I think we've done really well in regards to that. And it's really, really important having people in your life speaking. So you can actually deal with anything that you know, how you're feeling in regards to what you are experiencing.
So when you say you've had the COVID anxiety, what have you done? Because you've come back to the office, obviously you're not now, but you've been back in the office and you've managed that really well, because we all talked about how we were going to cope with it, didn't we? And knew that different people were experiencing higher levels of anxiety. But how did you overcome it? Because you've actually settled into it quite well, haven't you, really?
Yeah, I think it's all about, again, going back to the control. There are certain things that I can control and certain things that I can't. And I think at first, even I was, if you like, fretting or having negative impacts of attempting to control things I have no control over. So I focused on what I could control. So anytime, because obviously we were in the same team, Andy and Tony, so we were all back in at the same time, weren't we? But as soon as Andy opened that door, his mask had to be on. And I went in and I armed myself with my Zoflora and I disinfect everything. And it is about, without being too obsessive, so it doesn't interfere with what you want to do. And it's adapting. It's like transition. You've got to transition into a different, if you like, existence, a different structure.
Yeah.
And if you, I found it really helpful by just focusing on what I could control, accepting what I couldn't, and avoiding certain scenarios or situations.
Yeah, and I think the avoidance bit is a balance, isn't it? Because we can avoid too much, and then all it does is compounds the fear. And
Yeah.
you've dealt with it by actually managing the things you could, like there's a floor, which I did laugh at the first day because it like almost sprayed me away.
Yeah, but it smells nice. It smells really nice, doesn't it?
It does smell lovely, but that helps you not avoid. That helps you do things and join in.
Absolutely. So I confronted what, number one, I felt I was able to and what I felt comfortable doing. And like I say, I accepted what I couldn't do.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, you can find it easy, can't you? Because we know avoidance is one of the most used strategies. And it would be really easy for me to avoid and not come in and then, you know, provide sort of evidence saying why I can't do something. But, and again, me and sayings, I love some sayings. It's brilliant watching someone who's professing something can't be done and then see them interrupted by somebody actually doing it. So that's, in effect, the philosophy I used. So
by overcoming it, has it made you feel, and I know you still deal with it a little bit, especially when the news keeps changing and the information's changing. I know you're still dealing with it, but having come back into work, has that kind of given you a bit of strength because you faced something that was that difficult?
Yeah, because again, it's reinforcing what I know. Now, obviously, what I know is what I believe I know and what I believe to be true, but it reinforces it. And then as long as everybody else behaves, which sometimes is difficult with you lot, then we feel safe, because it's all about feeling safe, isn't it? It's about feeling safe and then doing what you can that will help.
Yeah, and I think as a team, because we know how each other feels about it, we try really hard. We're like, we don't come in, we're allowed to not wear our masks. That's why some people who are in offices aren't wearing masks, because if you're in your own office, you don't have to wear your mask. There's nobody around us. So it's like this rough knock on the door and it's, don't come in. Put it on. So I think we've been quite good at giving each other that care and respect as well, I think. And I say that to you guys as much because you've done that for me. So I think that's really nice. Thank you for sharing that, Arnold. What other things have people who wants to talk about? Lois, you've had a really interesting experience over COVID because you've been off on maternity leave and had a baby and all those things and COVID and all that stress. So how's that been for you?
It's been positive, actually, to be honest, because he's been a massive distraction from everything. I obviously was used to going to baby groups and going for walks, so that sort of did impact me at the beginning because it was a bit lonely, really. He's only a baby, so we can't talk. Obviously, my partner was going to work, so it was sort of dealing with all that at the beginning. But I sort of overcome that by speaking to other mums. Everyone was in the same position, so we either chatted on Facebook or we rang each other and was able to sort of vent that way, I suppose. Because with the baby, it is quite overwhelming. Is equally amazing, but it is overwhelming, and I think you need to speak to other people who are in a similar situation to yourself. It was just a massive shock to the system because I suppose we'd spend our days or spend our time doing lots of things, and all of a sudden we've not got those things to do anymore. And he's not at an age where I can just put him in front of the TV or anything for just even half an hour. He's sort of full on all day, really. And it was just sort of learning to manage that and thinking of activities and new ways of doing things. So we've been doing lots of crafts.
I love crafts.
Yeah, that was good. I did struggle a little bit. Sort of my mum's on her own, so lockdown was also difficult in terms of that. But we sort of overcame that by like FaceTime, or she could come to the window at the beginning when she wasn't in our bubble, and it was just sort of dealing with, I suppose, the guilt at the beginning of that side of things with my mum. But other than that, it's been okay. We've got through. I think we've all, like Arnold said, it was unprecedented. None of us have been in this position before, and hopefully we won't again. We just do what we can to keep ourselves well, I suppose.
Yeah. And that must have been really hard as a new mum to reach out to people. So I mean, my son is old, so baby groups. I never really did baby groups either for different reasons, but reaching out as a mum to other mums and saying I'm struggling a bit, or what do you do, that's really hard to do, isn't it? How did you manage that? That was really brave.
Yeah, so I was lucky. A lot of mums who've had a baby in lockdown probably won't have access to the same things, unfortunately, that I had. I was at baby groups before COVID, so I've sort of met the mums there, and I've always been quite honest and open as a person. I feel like that's important. So a few of my friends had suffered with postnatal depression. I was really lucky I didn't experience that, but I knew that sort of if I was feeling anxious or I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed, my friends would understand because they've been in a similar position, not exactly the same. But we were all in this lockdown together, whether you've suffered anxiety or postnatal depression before. Everyone was in the same position with a little baby before, and it was sort of building those relationships. I think they got stronger actually through lockdown, because before it was sort of surface level, like, oh, what are you feeding your baby for dinner, or things like that. But in lockdown, it was sort of, we were being a bit more honest about the stresses of it, and I think relating to other people and being honest, it was really important to sort of build and make the relationship stronger. I think connecting with other people is so important, no matter what, whether it's about anything. Doesn't have to just be a new mum. It just happens to be that these people were in the same position as me and understood. But equally, people who didn't have a new baby, my friends who didn't have a new baby, still sort of understood the feeling of being overwhelmed or feeling a bit lonely.
Yeah.
We've all been sort of in it, haven't we?
100%. I think that's a really valid point, though, because a lot of the time when we're sitting with our, I don't know, negative well-being, that feelings that we're really struggling with, or our diagnosed mental health condition. I know some of the group have had difficulties over the time. I've had postnatal depression a long time ago, and I remember this intense feeling of nobody knowing or understanding or being the same, so I couldn't talk about it. But reality is, when you do talk like we're doing now, you go, well, actually most of us have felt those things, but it's that step to say, and that's why it's so important we talk, isn't it? And nobody rejected you when you talked and reached out. Nobody criticised you, did they? No. So I think generally we're nice humans, aren't we? Hopefully. Oh, well, I'm glad it was nice, though. So I'm so jealous that you have a little cute one that you can, not a teenager that tells you to go away.
So can we identify then one strategy of coping, dealing with this pandemic is have a baby?
Yeah, but no. I mean, what's interesting so far between you and Lois is actually that talking, and when you're disconnected from people and feeling isolated, is reaching out, as hard as that is, has helped you both feel better, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And keep busy. I think distracted is really important. What about Andy? You're my little social butterfly who has more things. I like, my life is boring compared to yours normally. How have you got on?
About that? Well, at the start of lockdown, it was all, I think, like everyone, I was really anxious with the coronavirus. It was a really strange time. Obviously, not many people have been in that environment before and experienced that kind of thing. So found it very difficult at the start. And yeah, definitely, it was the not being able to see people was the thing for me that really I started to really struggle with. Like middle of lockdown, it was the kind of isolation of it all, and I didn't actually realize how much, to be honest, my mental health probably relies on other people and speaking to other people kind of thing. So I think where it was really helpful for me is speaking to you guys over Zoom, really, and having that constant interaction and being able to speak to people and keep up to date with things, really. I think what's helped me the most recently is probably routine and having something to look forward to, I guess. So, and planning in things.
Yeah.
I guess that's been the big thing for me.
Well, there's nothing worse than an endless period of time with nothing to do.
Yeah.
No enjoyment, is there? It's terrible.
That was a good point as well, Andy, because obviously it was only a couple of weeks ago when we all got, yourself, Tony and me, as I said, we were in the same team, and your excitement when you came into Lifeline and actually saw people interacting with it. Because social media is great. I mean, I don't have a high social media presence.
No.
But people who do, again, when they have that physical contact, that is important when when you can. And again, even that we've got to do under strict regulations.
Yeah.
But it is a good thing. Any sort of interaction, isn't it?
It's that positive human interaction. My favourite bit of team meetings in COVID actually has been when Andy gets his guitar out and sings us a song. I wanted you to do it today, but you're not going to do it. I have tried. But it's that kind of variety, isn't it? And that levity, laughing, even if you feel like crying, sometimes is a good thing. Or openly, I know with some of you, I've openly been upset during these 6 months and before that when I've faced kind of difficulties or stresses. Christina, how have you found it? Because it's your first week back this week, isn't it?
It is, but I'll be honest, you guys know me, I'm a bit of a worrier. So it's the uncertainty of it is really, it's been so challenging for me, especially at the start. I think I was comfortable in my own little bubble but then I found myself that I wasn't even going out to exercise, I wasn't going out for walks, and even like you guys were like, you need to get out. And that just kind of maintains it a little bit. And I found myself worrying over the slightest little thing. So we're in fact family, I've noticed my sleep was changing, I couldn't eat, it was so irregular, like I'd overeat to comfort eat and then I weren't eating properly. It was just everything, the whole routine got messed up. And then I think it was like speaking to you guys, and you guys were noticing changes. You've got to do something about it. So I took up a couple of new things. One of the most recent things I've started doing is a bit of mindful colouring, because we recommend it. So I thought I'd give it a go. And what I've been doing is, like, for half an hour, most nights this week, I've kind of stuck a film on in the background and just done half an hour, and it's just chilled me right out.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, and it just kind of clears your head, brings your focus of attention to whatever you're doing, and I just found it really relaxing. But I think, like what you guys are saying, it's key to kind of do something for yourself, find something that you find a bit chilling and relaxing. Building in something that you can look forward to is key. So, like, I have started now going for walks more regularly.
Exercise in the outdoors, it's a healing property all of its own.
That's it. But, like, I like nature. That's just me. I like being out. I like the sounds. I like just being with nature. That's just me. So that's something I look forward to and I enjoy. And yeah, it's just remaining connected. And you guys have helped me quite a lot through this, because without having these calls and without speaking regularly, I probably wouldn't have had much social contact, because people generally have their own lives and they're just getting on with it. And so, yeah, there's a few things in that are key, really, aren't there?
Yeah, I think they're big things. They're not even little things, they're big things. There's a lot we've talked about that we all need to do. And I think what's interesting is, because we've all dipped and had difficulties at different times, isn't it? And we've all recognised the things that the other people need to do that actually we've all needed to do as well. There's the exercise, the outdoors is so good for us. And some people, I've spoken to people during lockdown that didn't even have access to outdoors because of their accommodation. There's a good diet, like you say, keeping that balance. Doing things you enjoy. I have done some weird crap, me. I made elderflower cordial at one point.
You did some amazing stuff, and you did
Had
like
some-
wicker. What was it that you got?
I like a wicker wreath. That was ace.
That was
I'm now on to spiritualism, so I'm learning how to do tarot card readings, and I've done the Reiki qualification. So I'm going through that now. God knows what I'll be for another 6 months of this. I could be anything.
yeah.
And Andy's finding different ways, and Lois finding different ways of talking to different people to still get those human connections.
Yeah.
And there was what's interesting as well, which you might not have noticed, is every single one of you has helped other people during lockdown. And I don't mean in a work capacity. I mean as part of your own maintaining your well-being, because that makes us feel good, doesn't it, helping other people? So who wants to quiz me, because otherwise it's not fair?
Well, Tony, I was going to ask, what have you been doing in lockdown? But I think we all know.
Oh, wow.
And it's good. And I think from what you've said and what everybody said, we've all got different ways that we cope, that we manage, and that word that you all love, that we can discharge our emotional
100%.
baggage, if you like.
Love it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it really is important. So, and as you quite rightly said, you've had your issues, just like anybody, because we are all human. We're all in this. I know it is a bit of a cliche, we're in it together. And it's really important in regards to, like you say, what have you done? And do you consider what you've done in order to control, manage this situation as adaptive? Because it's really important, isn't it, that we develop adaptive strategies, not maladaptive.
Yeah. I mean, I've prioritised a lot of. I've always been somebody that would put the needs of other people first, at the detriment of my own mental health and well-being. That's always been the case, and that's probably my biggest weakness, to be fair. But lockdown has meant that I was less able to go and volunteer somewhere. I was less able to do all those things, and it forced me actually to do more of those self-care things that I avoid quite a lot, and try and find hobbies. And apparently I'm one of those crafty people, but I'm really crap at the same time, so it's quite funny. I'm not like as good as I want to be, but I keep on trying. But there has been challenges for me that have put me in quite a low mood in the lockdown period, and that's been quite a balance that I found quite difficult to talk about, and there's only been a few people that I've opened up to about that, because that for me is a really vulnerable place to be.
Yeah.
Especially because I have had that postnatal depression before, and I think when you've come through a depression and then you notice that low mood, it's scary. You feel like you're losing control, you might go backwards. But being able to talk about it and do all my crafty weird shit. But I mean, I bought 2 packets of tarot cards yesterday. My husband would be like, what are you doing now? But doing that combination of all those things and knowing who is safe to talk to and who I feel and I think that's really important, about who's safe and comfortable to talk to. And sometimes I've talked to people who aren't my normal people, if that makes any sense, like people who are slightly outside of my comfort zone, because that was safer for me at that time, or that felt more comfortable to do. So, I think it's all the same things. It's all that talking and then that sharing, but in a way where you feel safe and you don't feel vulnerable, and you know that you'll be respected. And I suppose that's one of the joys of us being around for our students, is that we can always be that safe place. We can always be that. And what's really good for me, I think, and when I talk to you guys, is knowing that we've all had our own issues and we do come through them. And, we haven't all shared in detail things today, because we're trying to focus on that COVID mental health and that positive well-being. But I know that in life, the majority of us will experience some kind of issue, maybe not a diagnosis per se, but an issue that will really affect them. And I've loved hearing how you guys have coped, and seeing you kind of keep going and seeing that resilience, because resilience isn't about not giving up. It's about your recovery, isn't it? It's about building it back up. And I think there's huge amounts of resilience that everyone in this team has expressed over this period. So I'm just really proud to work with you all and know you all. And I'm really grateful for the times when some of you have had me crying on the end of a phone or on a call or doing that. So I'm really grateful for that. And you're a really good team. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Tony.
I love a bit of American cheese, you know that. Side of cheese, please. I suppose the last point from us is what if you could all say one statement, one bit of advice, what would it be? Lois, let's start with you, babe.
Talk to people. If you are struggling, you'll probably know someone who's in a similar or will understand you. Kind of, if that makes sense. So someone will understand, even if you think that they might not. It's really important to open up to people and just talk. Take that leap and don't keep things to yourself.
Yeah, that's so true. Thanks, Lois. Andy.
Routine. Have some positive routine and have something to look forward to.
I love that. Arnold.
Focus on what you can control and work on accepting what you can't.
I like the fact that you said work, because that's one of the hardest things to do. Thank you. Christina.
I think in a world where we very much focus on the relationships with others and kind of how they impact on us, I think the relationship with you is key, and you've got to figure out kind of what you need, what you want, and take care of you, really.
I love that. That's so
Yeah.
true. So good.
What about you, Tony?
What would I say? Well, I think it is about, I think one of the biggest strengths that we can ever have as humans is recognizing when our battery's low.
Yeah.
And that helps us know whether we need to work on ourselves, whether we need to look at our control, whether it's our routine, whether it's reaching out, diet. It's that developing that self-awareness and knowing when is the right time, I think is really key. Thank you, guys. And I think World Mental Health Day this year, we just need to be there for each other and talk. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. And if you have any feedback for us, contact us at lifelounge.bolton.ac.uk, and you can register on the website as well, on bolton.ac.uk, and then /lifelounge, and then you'll be able to find the registration form. But thank you very much for listening to this, and I really hope that it gives you a little bit of comfort as well, if nothing else. Thanks, guys, for joining in today and opening up your little stars. Take care, everybody.